Hey YouTube, how you doing? This is part 2 of the KE102 clutch. Okay, so basically I'm just going to go recap. I cleaned up the gasket surface while I was on, doing the, taking a break there for a little bit. And I got the copper head gasket. This is a junk head gasket, apparently. And I used that to scrape the gasket surface. It's the best way to do it. It doesn't mar up the aluminum, and it makes it safe for the thing there. Okay, so when we left on the first break, I was trying to remember how I did the last Barnett clutch. They're really simple to do if you have the right tools. And so I was just trying to figure out how I did it. And I had to figure it out. So I did that. I figured out what I did, and I'm gonna pass it on to you. All right. So first off, we're gonna make sure these things line up. I believe that's all the way in. Kind of hard to tell. Make sure I got the. No, I'm not in. In right there. Okay, good. All right. What is up with this thing? Alright, I got pressure on the shifter, so there we go. And that fits in like that. Okay. Alright, so we gotta put this down like this because you had pressure on the shifter. And I can't put the clutch in properly with the shifter. Pressure on the shifter because it's pushing against it. Alright, so let's unplug your cord here. Alright, and now without further ado, let's get this clutch installed. Okay, so if you put pressure on the other side, the clutch lever, the shift lever, will push on the clutch basket, and you won't be able to put it all the way back enough to get the spring clip. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're doing these. And I wanted to kind of raise that up. So let me see if I can find something to set this on. I'll do it like it's on the bike. Screw it. Okay, so here it is right here. Your clutch pack, you're going to have your bottom part of your basket. You see all this? Yeah, okay, good. Alright, so that right there is your first steel, but before you put that on, make sure you have your thrust washer. Very, very important. Thrust washer on first, then your basket steel. Then you're going to have your first disc and steel plate this way. So you're going to have a disc, your friction disc. Kind of doing this, trying to get out of your way here. See what's going on. Okay, hold on 1 second. These new clutches have they're very sharp cut edges, so it makes it kind of difficult to do that. But I'm going to put all these steels on here. So basically, it's going to go to the top plate. It's going to have a friction disc, steel, friction disc, steel, friction disc, steel, friction disc, and then the plate that goes in the bottom there. And then we'll put this all together here. If at all we can. Wants to move on me here. Okay. With all that like that. Okay. Get the other one to line up and go in there. Get in there. Okay. And now we're all the way back. Are we? Are we not? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna move you guys out of the way for a second. This doesn't look right to me. Hold on 1 second. Something like that. Thrust washer on first. Yeah, just like so. Oh, yeah, that piece came off the back there. You got to make sure that those grooves right there line up. And that can be a pain in the neck. Let me tell you that right now. Okay. There's no real way to hold that in and do the clutch at the same time, unfortunately. But, and with the new clutch, they're very, there's no tolerance on them, so they're very tight. Come on, get in there. Sits back like that. Okay. Thrust washer, and then that snap clip. Of course, I move my pliers someplace after I hold it all up in there. Oh, what do I do with them? I move my snap clips, pliers, to show Alright, I might have to do that again because I'm missing my snap clip pliers. To be honest with you, oh, there I fell on the floor. Okay, fair enough. That was a pain in the neck. Okay, I'm pushing the clip on until it sits in the back. Okay, well, make sure it's all the way in, because if it's not, yep, that just snapped in on that one. Make sure it's all the way in. No, I'm not happy with that yet. It's going in, it's snapped in, but it's not in there far enough, which is normally not the case. hurt snapping that time. Okay. Just want to make sure it's in, because you don't want that thing coming out when it's what do you call it there? When that thing's all together. I'll tell you right now, that'll be a mess. And I don't think that's all the way in. So I am going to do something about it. Just readjusting my clips here. Very, very tired. Alright, let's see here. No, we'll put this on the inside. Okay. Yeah, I don't see where that's in far enough, to be honest with you. Alright, let's try plan B. Sometimes you can get them like that. I'm just going to give it a quick little tap. Sometimes you have to, fight with it a little bit and persuade it. It's snapped in on the end, so it's very close to being where it needs to be. I just don't see if it, I don't think it's all the way into where it should be. Okay. Well, that looks a lot better. It doesn't feel like, I'm not used to seeing them like that. Okay. Here we go. I'm actually going to pull that back off one more time just to make sure that clipped into where it needs to go, because I'm not used to seeing that clip like that. So I need to verify it, because if I'm not 100%, I'm not 100%. Okay, yep, you saw that jut forward. That little thing right there is the groove. Oh yeah, I see it now. Not much of a groove on that. So as long as it makes the clip sound, the click, you're good to go. Nope, that didn't work. I think it's just because I'm so tired. Yep, I can feel it. There it goes. Hear that clip? Yep, that looks much better. Okay. I'm actually going to bring you guys down here because let me show you how this looks. You guys should see this. Okay, so in the center here, you'll see that there's a snap clip right there. that wasn't snapping in all the way around. Now it is. And it's very important to make sure that that clip in the middle there clicks in. Because if it doesn't click in, that whole thing is going to be free. And you don't want that. Okay, so now I have a lot of questions about how are you going to compress the spring. This whole basket's in there now. It's all in there solid. Ain't going anywhere. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so you want to make sure there's no debris in there from the gasket. This is the clutch right here. It's going to be free. We need to tighten it up. I was going to compress it, make it like a clutch pack with 2 flat washers and a nut and bolt. But then I remembered how I did it last time. So I'm just tired. Last time I used longer bolts on the clutch spring because these springs, these aftermarket ones, I'll show you the difference. They're like almost a ½ inch taller than the what do you call it there? The factory ones. Okay, so this clutch is going to grab like a you-know-what. Okay, which is exactly what we're looking for, what we want to have happen. I'm actually going to turn this motor back over now that it's all secure. And I'm going to show you how and what I did, and you have the bolts, the specialty bolts for this. Okay. You can do this on the bike. I'm just doing it for this way for the video, you know. It's just a lot easier to do this. Okay. All right. So you got all 6 of your springs. There's 6 springs total, and then you have your plate, and you need a longer screw to pull it down through. So screws that I'm using, I'm using 2 of them, are actually on your bike. These 2 screws right here are the screws off of your marker lights, your front directionals that hook on your handlebars. These are the 2 screws from that. I used 1 from each one, that way it can still stay on the bike and then it's easier to put together. So now I'm going to wind these down a little bit using the marker light screws. Then when I wind it down a little bit more, you're going to love this part. Now the factory screws will go right in. How cool is that? Then, after you get all 4 of those on, just snug them up, crisscross them, crisscross applesauce. Don't tighten them. Just want to snug them, just so they grab. Because you got to torque them. Then you can take your marker light screws back out. After you get the marker light screws back out, it's funny how your bike already has these on it, you know what I mean? So you don't need to run to the hardware, you don't have to get any special screws. That's how you can, I'm like, how the heck did I do that last time? Because this ain't my first one, you know what I mean? So I'm like, how the heck did I do it last time? It's been a while since I did it, and I remember, I rubbed the screws off the front. Okay. Now I get this on there, we're going to cross them all up. We're just gonna snug them. We're not gonna torque them. Not yet. We want to get these things so that all the whole plate, the whole clutch plate, is nice and, you know, done right. You know what I mean? Because you're compressing these springs, which are in there tight. Okay, make sure they're all on there. Okay, now that we get the bolts just sitting on there, okay, I'm going to switch out tools, and we're going to go to this. This is a torque wrench right here, 3/8 drive. I'm going to put you back here so I can torque this properly here. Okay. I'm going to torque all 6 bolts, but I'm going to do it in a crisscross pattern like I would if I was putting a wheel on. The torque for that, okay, is going to be 3 to 3.5 foot-pounds of torque. Alright, so sip my drink real quick. Three and a half foot-pounds. You know what? I'm going to do that after I put the spark plug back in, because I'm going to use the compression to hold it. Okay. Put the spark plug in and let the compression hold it. I'm still pulling it. Alright. I could use a piston stop, which is probably what I should be using right now. I was just trying to avoid getting it. Alright. Man, it is 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing it, so I'm exhausted. I'm using my piston stop right here. Put that in. Okay, bring that around. That's gonna hit. Alright. You can see me alright? Okay, good. Come on, gotta figure out how I'm gonna do this. Yeah, see what I'm talking here. Okay, go that like this. I need to get a different socket. This socket's not doing it. This one here would be better. Yeah, it seems to be gripping better. Right. Oh yeah. Just double checking them all. That's after I did the crisscross pattern. Just want to check them. I think I already did this one, but right. Okay. Alright. So after I torqued them, I'm back over to double check them all. Because you don't want to over tighten those things. Those things right there will snap and then get fatigued. You'll stretch the bolts. They're under immense pressure anyway, being in there with those extra added springs, which can be an absolute nightmare to do. So the new clutch is in and squared away. Okay. Get this right here real quick. Yep, okay. My spark plug back in. So now this thing's going to have a Barnett clutch. Alright, I'm going to tip it back on its side for the time being. Okay. Shrink you guys back down. Boom! Alright. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'm sorry for some of the boring part of it, but unfortunately I totally spaced it when I did the last one. It's been a while since I did that. Make sure all the stuff is in there. Make sure there's no debris. Kick it around. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to put the cover back on. This is what she looks like right here. Okay, you want to make sure this thing is all nice and clean. Make sure that cleanliness is next to godliness. Make sure she's all together, and do not forget your little cup, because this clutch right here will not work without that cup. Okay, so I cleaned up my shaft a little bit more while I was doing the brakes. For all that right there, I'm going to take a little dab of this Permatex Ultra Slick. Love this engine assembly lube. I'm going to take it, put a little dab on my finger, and do the what do you call it there? The shaft with it. Might have to go a little bit more with it, but I just want to make sure it's nice and lubed, because we don't want to have any oil seal leaks at all. Alright. Now I got that. Got the gasket surface all cleaned up on the cover. Make sure that's all there. You make sure you have your what do you call it? Your dowel pin. Okay, make sure that's all set and everything's clean. And we're going to take our new gasket that came with the kit. Kind of toss that on there. I prefer to have the dowel pin in the block as opposed to in the what do you call it there? The cover. That right there means it'll hold the gasket in place a little better when you're doing this, because if you don't, what will happen is it'll you could pinch the gasket in the wrong spot. Okay, got that all the way in. I just put the dowel pin in, and it's got the way to go. Then that'll sit right on there like so. Make sure you get your plug in there first. Make sure there's no debris in there. Make sure the inside's nice and clean. Make sure, see this? I got the cover upside down. Okay, here we go. This is your oil transfer port. This right here is where your oil line comes in from your what do you call it? The automatic oiler, and goes up to that pin right there. You want to make sure there's no blockage or debris in there. Make sure the whole surface is nice and clean, because you don't want to take this thing apart again twice. Okay, I'm going to clean up this where the seal is here. Gonna wipe that out. I'm just wiping it out with a clean napkin, and I'm gonna throw a little dab of assembly lube inside that seal. That's for your Kickstarter shaft to come through. Then set it into place the best you can. Make sure your intake comes through. Go back and forth a little bit. Make sure your oiler comes through, because if your oil gear doesn't come through, that's a problem. I don't like where that oiler is sitting, so I'm going to have to possibly take this back off and find out what's going on with the oiler. Was it all the way through? Yeah, no. Once these things are on there, man, they are a pain in the neck to get back off. And you don't want to break that gasket either. Okay. Alright. Find out why it's not coming through. Find out what the big deal is. Alright, let's put a little oil on it. Alright. Take. Make sure it didn't pop any seals off with it when it came off either. Here, make sure both your O-rings are on. Okay, yeah. Alright. And it might have something to do with the shifter pushing up on it. So let's take that and get that down. Okay, like that, yep. A little bit of a gap. I'm just going to tap that on there, see if it goes. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay. And then we are in. We are in. Boom. Get her done. Alright. The next step, after we get that all set in and everything is happy, we're going to grab our schematic of bolts right here. Pop them back through. Those go into the side cover there, so I'm not going to put those back on right now. Okay. Alright, got those. Put one more at the bottom there, pop that one out. Okay. I'm not tightening these up, I'm just getting them set in there. But I still have a bunch of other ones to go. At the bottom there, this thing's slippery. Got to wash this motor up. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so that, and because these are two side cover screws, I'm going to throw them on now. Those two side cover screws. And I'm going to keep this for later use. Alright, now you can see the bolts, the screws. Gotta use my big screwdriver. I'm gonna start at the bottom here. Tight. 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 I did this one. Tight. Going around them. Tight. 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 And these right here stay loose. And I think I did that one already. I'm just going to double check it. Tight. Okay. Alright. Now, I have the engines all back together. New clutch is installed, and then we're going to put the Kickstarter back on. It's basically like this. Want that straight up. Give that a little love tap. Beautiful. Look at that, huh? Thing of beauty. Put the bolt back in it. And then I'll tighten that up. Nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure everything's fine. I am going to take this plug out. I should have left the plug out in the beginning, but I didn't. Because I can't turn this engine on by hand with that high compression head. It's too high compression. Nice. Everything sounds wonderful. Nothing's rubbing, nothing's hitting, everything feels fine. Okay. Put the plug back in. And that right there concludes how to do a clutch. So, couple of helpful things we're just going to quickly go over. When you have those extra long clutch springs, these things are dinky. These things are tiny. I mean, I can compress them with my fingers, okay? They're cheap. These ones are longer. So use the marker light bolts that go to your directionals on your handlebars. And I'll show you which ones I'm talking about. Because I have an extra set of handlebars here with marker lights on it. Okay, so these marker lights right here in the front that go on, they clamp on your what do you call it there? Your handlebars. These are the bolts from it. Okay, so take those bolts out. use them to wind in your clutch. When you get it to a reasonable spot, then you can go ahead and do it that way. The other way, which is a pain in the neck, which also can be done, is if you use two flat washers and clamp it together, but fitting them in with a so tight tolerance is virtually impossible, but it can be done. I've done it. I've done it both ways. So, mark your bolt holes with the old gasket. Draw yourself out a schematic. Okay. There you go. Draw yourself out a schematic. I wrote down the size of the bolts. These are 2 15/16. That's 1 and 5/32, and I wrote, showed you a picture of where they go. This way, if you lose your bolts and you don't know which ones they go into, there you go. Because they had one of them that was wound way up through and was stripped out, and I had to extract that before I started doing my video. Because a clutch was done to this before, but they did a factory clutch, which is what I put in that bag, because that's still a good clutch. This thing rode great. But as you can tell, it's got the little springs, the insignificant springs, and there's no real grab to it, Now this clutch is going to be a little harder to pull in, but it's going to be worth it, So the next part that's coming in is going to be the carburetor, and we're going to be mocking up an aluminum spacer to go on this side, and then we have to order the oiler, and that's it for this side. Then the new sprocket on the other, and then this motor's ready to go in. But it's not going in until the bike is painted. We're going to have to degrease this whole engine because I got my oily fingerprints. We're going to degrease this whole engine after it's all said and done. We're going to put this engine on my 100, my KE100, and break it in, get it all ready for the new bike. We're going to adjust it all up while we're doing the body work to the bike. Then the frame has to go down. We got to get the KX100 front end. The disc brakes are going to go on it. The rear shocks, the air shocks, all the way around. Oh, it's crazy. We got a lot of stuff going on. But I wanted to get, I got the Barnett clutch in, so I wanted to put that in and make sure that was in and solid and all taken care of, because we want to make sure that everything we do to this thing is 100%. And if you get a high performance engine, you need a high performance clutch. Or if you're just going to rip it out, Lube up your stuff before you throw it in. And once you get it in, that's all going to have to be adjusted, of course. Not tonight, though. Once it's on the bike, it'll be all adjusted. We got to make sure it's all loose, loosen all that up. And that's pretty much it for the KE102 engine for tonight. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. And thank you guys for going on this journey with me. I'm sorry it's so late. I am exhausted. I've been messing up all night, and I apologize for that. What a night. So keep your old head gaskets. These are great gasket scrapers. You know what's cool? See how I bent it all up trying to get into cracks and crevices? You can just take a hammer and flatten it back out like nothing. And these are better than razor blades. Razor blades will cut into the aluminum, make divots, and then you got leaks because the gasket has to work twice as hard. These right here, this is copper. You're not going to ruin it. You know what I mean? You're not going to ruin the body on it. You can scrape the sugar spot out of it, and you're not going to ruin it. Just off it comes. So you don't have to worry about all that crap coming off. So remember, before you take your engine apart, wash it. Get all the dirt and debris off of it, because you don't want that going into your casing. That's your first step. Second step, take your gasket. Mark out your bolt pattern so you don't lose your bolts. You can do this with anything. Doesn't matter what side you're doing. That's the key right there. And mark your bolts. You don't have to write down the size, the length of the bolts. I did that to show you guys, so you guys have a reference. If you did take your bike apart, you don't know which bolts are when, and your bike has been sitting. Now I just did the homework for you. I measured them all out for you. and you can see all these right here. All these arrows go right up to here. That's 15. That's 1 inch and 5/32. These two right here are 1 3/4. That one's 2 and these two right here are 2 and 15/16. There's your cylinder right there. There's your 2 motor mount bolt holes in the front, 1 in the back, 1 up top. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you can't get any better than that. So I did the homework for you. On my previous video, I did the, what do you call it there? I gave you guys the part numbers and all that, which are all right here. I put them in order so you can see the way they go. So you got references there, you get your gasket number and your spring kit number. And let's see, what else we got? We covered over that. I told you guys you have to marinate your clutches in oil, the oil that you're going to use. Turns out you can use synthetic in this if you want to get it. Just make sure it's compatible with your clutch. And I used nails. You'll see the nails in there to separate them. So I put a friction disc. Then I put 4 nails, another friction disc, 4 nails in different angles, and I stacked them up that way so they could all be submerged. You don't need to do that. You can fan them out. A lot of people do that. They'll take them and they'll put them, you know, like that, you know, in there. You can do that too. But never install a clutch dry. Never run a clutch dry because you'll just burn them out. And I don't care what you get for a clutch, it will burn them out. So this has a Barnett clutch kit complete. This has the Wiseco 20 over piston. It's been bored out. It's been what do you call it? The nickel style coating. All new top end gaskets, and we put a what do you call it there? A iridium spark plug on there for the firing of it. So pretty much next step would be I got the exhaust system is going to be worked on this week that we're into right now. One day during the week it's going over to my brother's and we're going to mock it up, weld it up, and get that part going until we can finish off the back. Because I need to get that done before I do the carburetor. We're going to machine and make a the side cover. So we're going to do that. So it comes out, it's going to stick out 1 inch, and I'll show you all that, how it's going to go. So we're going to get longer bolts, and we need to replace the cover bolts with the Allen head, and what do you call it there? And that's pretty much it for that. I'm going to do the covers are going to be Allen head. Everything else is going to be the factory Phillips screws. That separates from what you need to go to what you don't need to go to. But everybody has their own opinions. And that's okay. That's what makes the world diverse, right? So make sure your grommets are in good shape. Your filters down there in good shape. Let's see. We have an air filter modification, air box modification coming up. The carburetor modification, we have to jet that and get that squared away. We're using a aftermarket carburetor that's found on like the KE100s and stuff. And that's it. So we went over where the crankshaft seals are for you guys, and we went over, let's see, the proper installation of the clutch, how to deal with the extra long springs. That was the tip with the lights. So there's a lot of information. The torque on those 6 bolts, I used a torque wrench, and I torqued them down to 3.5 foot-pounds. That's what they are. And I showed you guys the trick using a battery terminal remover to remove the whatchamacallit, the Kickstarter, because they get burrs on them. When they loosen up, they create burrs. And this has the shaft right here in the middle of it, and it fits right into the groove, right in the center there. So it grabbed it nicely. The impact driver, right here, very important tool. This tool is what keeps those screw heads looking as nice as they do. Every time I go take them out, I strip them. That's because you don't use a screwdriver on them. You got to shock them loose with this first. Then, and the nice thing about this is you can pull the head off, and so you have a bolt. You can put a socket right on this and whack on that, and it'll come loose like a shock, like an impact gun. So you can do that. If you have like a lug nut or something on your car that's really stuck, you can use this. That has a lot of handy things on it. So, well, this concludes. So tired, guys. Oh, and I use my piston stop right here so I could torque the thing down. This engine's got really high. I can't even kick this thing. Oh, watch this. I can't even move it. There we go. Ugh. That's compression. That, my friends, is compression. So, I had to use a piston stop because I was going slow with it, but yeah, you can't even kick the thing over. It's tight like a tiger. Anyway, this concludes our video for the clutch installation on the Barnett clutch. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you have any questions or comment. By all means, send them my way. And this clutch is for the 102, and it does the KE100s, the KDs, the KMs, the KHs, the KVs, the 90s, the Trail Boss. All those are the same clutch. So the Trail Boss 110 speed, this covered it. This covered basically all that stuff. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe.